This is the Initiates Podcast. Here, we create space to explore the path of initiation as we reawaken the forgotten wisdom that resides within us all. I am your host and guide, Natalie Grace. Join me every Thursday for an enlightening exploration of contemporary spirituality. It's my honour to journey with you. Hello friends, thank you so much for being with me. Today I welcome a very special guest to the show, Josh Dubovie of the MEGApodcast. I was inspired to invite Josh on for a chat because firstly, I really liked his energy when I connected with him online, but also because I was intrigued by his platform, Make Earth Great Again. And little did I know how fascinating a character he is and what an incredible story he holds in his lived experience. As someone who holds the intention myself of creating the Garden of Eden here on Earth, and I mean that in a literal and figurative sense, I felt like we had a sacred mission in common. And that led us to come together for this chat where we talk about living in alignment and what it is to live in symbiosis with the earth, so the natural world, but also humanity. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a bit more about Josh and his story because he is just such a fascinating soul. Josh Dubovie is the co-host of the MEGApodcast and the owner of the Mega platform. Mega focuses on elevating the voices of a wide diversity of souls doing great things on this planet. On his podcast, he shares inspirational stories from a diverse range of thought leaders, healers, and experts who all have one thing in common, that they're working to make Earth great using intention, collaboration, and community. Josh holds such a unique and interesting frequency of lived experience. It's clear that there are really so few people in the world with an awakening journey or story quite like his. In his first stage of life, he worked as a performer, and at the height of his singing career was performing for hordes of people, tens of thousands in fact, at festivals, pubs, and even on cruise ships. He's experienced the allure of fame and the inner workings of the entertainment industry, which actually formed a critical path in his awakening journey. It's such an incredible story because at the pinnacle of his success, he got to do what so many others dream of doing, representing his country in the final of the Eurovision Song Contest, performing for millions of viewers around the world and enshrining himself in the entertainment history books. But the experience was not exactly dreamy, and what followed catapulted Josh into a deep and intense personality crisis that forced him to seek truth deep within. That journey led him to an entirely different life and a realization that his true talent was recognizing and celebrating the people on this planet who for him make life worth living. I'm so honored that Josh felt called to share his experience with us all, and I'm sure you'll find his telling of his story super fascinating, just like I did. Before I share our chat, I would love to remind you that this week I'm hosting my very first listener event, the 2022 Initiates Listener Party. This event will be live streamed on YouTube on the evening of Tuesday, December 20 for all North American listeners. And if you're in Australia or New Zealand, that's the afternoon of Wednesday, December 21. I've popped all the event details into the show notes for you, including event times for all those different time zones. So if you'd like to attend, check that out. This is a free event to celebrate our achievements and share our lessons for 2022 because it's been such a big year, a groundbreaking year for so many I know. I'll be taking you through a guided reflection plus an interactive Q&A, and I'll be giving away free mini tarot readings for those in the chat as well. If you'd like to attend, just follow me on YouTube at the Initiates Podcast, or you can click the link in the show notes to register, and I'll send you a reminder with all the details so you don't miss out. All right, now let's journey with Josh Dubovie. Thank you so much, Josh, for joining me today. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Natalie. No, I'm really excited to be here, and I've been listening to a couple of your episodes actually in preparation. I'm actually super excited to be here, so thanks for having me.
So to kick off, could you give the listeners a brief intro into you, who you are, and how you describe your mission?
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's a huge question. So first of all, I would say that from a young age, I always felt very different in society. I always felt like I was kind of a bit of a misfit. And I'm sure that maybe some of your listeners could relate to that, because it seems to be, in my opinion, that lots of people kind of are drawn to misfits nowadays. But I'm sure we'll get into that later. But I always found that I didn't really fit in. I was a bit of a floater. And then as I got older, I actually began to do some singing. And it was something that I thought was what I had to do, because as I was going through life trying to, maneuver and figure out who I was, singing was just something that I kind of fell into. And then I kind of took that experience and it grew into something that it just didn't, I don't know, when I got to my late teens, it just didn't feel like it was the right thing for me. It's kind of difficult to explain because it's obviously a very personal experience, but I just realized that I was not feeling aligned. And for me, as I enter my adult age, like, alignment is something that is so important, and I feel like it's getting more and more important every day. So what happened was I decided that with all of my feeling like a misfit and feeling like I wanted to change the world and do all these things, and singing wasn't really it, that I needed something that was a little bit more fulfilling. It's something that, because don't get me wrong, when you're on stage and you're performing for people, it's such an incredible feeling, and I really do love making people happy. But it seems that it wasn't really a very useful skill, and I feel like now what I decided to do with the Mega Podcast was actually to leverage other people's skills, because I'm not necessarily skilled in many areas, but one of the things that I really do consider as a positive is that I love celebrating other people. And so I decided to put all of that passion together and bring people together and try to showcase them and show the world how incredible these people are and what they're doing to change the world. And hopefully I could have a larger impact out there as well, and kind of bring all of the misfits into the fold, and all the people that are pioneers and people that haven't really felt like they belonged either, because I feel like those are the people that are actually, they do live outside of the norm. They do think that the world needs to change to a certain degree, and they are actually taking steps to do that. So I've been actively going out there and finding people from all different corners of the world. I mean, I find people on TikTok. I think we actually got connected on on a Facebook group, right? It was the podcasting collaboration group. And I'm just finding all these incredible people and kind of bringing them together, and they're business owners and they're service providers. And if they're not business owners or service providers, what they do have is an incredible story to share. And I feel like right now, the world really does need to hear some inspirational stories, because it's getting to the point where it's at such a pivotal time in history that people are going to be looking for this stuff. So that was kind of the birth of the Mega Podcast.
Amazing. I love how you were inspired to kind of bring people who you describe as outsiders together, because I feel like a lot of these people who are trailblazers or have a vision for living in a different way or living in a different world are the ones who, like you said, make the change. And so to be able to, it's also kind of like an isolating path. You can feel really isolated when you see things in such a unique way and have a unique perspective. So I think that's a pretty cool inspiration.
100%.
So when I came across you and your podcast and I saw the name MEGApodcast, do you want to just quickly tell me what that stands for?
Yeah, of course. So it stands for Make Earth Great Again. And honestly, to be honest, when I tell some people that, they do squirm. But really, I think that, of course, everybody knows that there's the MAGA, right? It's all the MAGA crowd, whatever, make America great again. But this is much larger than that, in my opinion. And something that that really dawned on me was that we need to bring people together on both sides of the spectrum. I feel like we're so polarized nowadays, and Make Earth Great Again really just steps right up to politics. And it says, hey, like, fair enough, you're here, but we're also here. Everybody has a slice of this. Like, there's enough for everybody to go around. And what MEGApodcast does is brings people from all sides of the field together, because that's how we're going to do this. I mean, as we said just now, the world, or the earth, is so polarized. And right now, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'd love to just expand on that if that's cool with you. The world is at a pivotal time in history, in my opinion, where we could either make or break, because there's so many things. Like, we're on the brink of nuclear war. We've got all this crazy stuff happening. People were like, this pandemic, the last couple of years, that really shook things up. People were all of a sudden forced to figure out what it was that actually was important to them. Relationships were severed, or relationships were rekindled. People left jobs and people started new careers. People decided to work from home. And then, so there's so many things that have been happening right now. But I really do believe that we're at a pivotal time, because we can either make hell on earth or we can make heaven on earth. And I feel like I want to be on the side of things where we make heaven on earth. And that includes everybody. And Natalie, I have a general manager. So I work at a retirement home. Mm-hmm. I have a general manager, and she's nearly 60, and we don't agree on anything political. We don't agree on anything. I have lunch with her every single day. I've been there for over a year, probably about 300 plus lunches at this point. And we absolutely adore each other. And that's all I want for the world, is to just, like, you don't have to have the same beliefs and opinions on everything. It's okay to have your own opinions and not get so easily offended, and just allow somebody to say, well, what do you think about this? Well, I think that kind of sucks. Oh, really? Oh, that's crazy. Well, I actually think it's kind of cool. Oh, anyway, how's the soup? Yeah, the soup's good. I feel like that's what's missing. So really, MEGApodcast is just kind of highlighting what it's like to be a human again, and bringing those people together that actually lead their businesses with humans first. That what does the person have? Do they have their good interests at heart? And if I recommend a business or a service provider, I want to know to the bottom of my heart that if I pass that person over to this business or service provider, that they're going to be taken care of, that they're not going to just be another number on a page, that they're not just going to be, someone's going to try and sell them something that they don't need. So you'll see people on the MEGApodcast that have all different kind of backgrounds, all different kind of beliefs, but they're finance coaches, they're holistic healers. I even have a politician on there. I have, so many people. There was a spiritual mastery guide. There's just so many different types of people, because that's the beauty of the world that we live in. It is diverse. And I feel like at the moment, all these things have been coming together so much that we're going to lose that diversity in fear of losing the diversity. We're so afraid of not being able to be one, that we're just accepting everything, and we're afraid to be diverse now and not be offended by other people's diversity. So that's kind of a nutshell of what Make Earth Great Again stands for and what it means.
Yeah. I think I was intrigued by the statement of it, obviously, because we've connected on the fact that we both have this yearning to I like saying remember or rediscover the unified beauty of the earth, basically. But I really do appreciate that you weren't afraid to take something so divisive and reframe it in a way that promotes unity, and creating a platform for unity for people coming together and sharing their differences, because that's what I see as the beautiful thing about Earth. Every single tree is different. There's no tree that's the same. There's no animal that's the same. Like, they're all completely unique creations. And we are kind of being trained to not honor that part of existing with one another anymore, which is really sad. So I really appreciate the way you're reframing that kind of that catchphrase, I guess, and making it about unity. I think that's really cool. I want to know so we've talked about the people and us coming together, but making Earth great, I think for a lot of my listeners, there's a lot of discussion about the new Earth, which is a fairly kind of new age concept, which is all about this dimensional shift. Now, I've gone through the journey of researching this and immersing myself in these kinds of ideas, and I'm not quite sure where I land on that yet, if I take it literally like lots of people do, or if I see it more as a metaphor for how we need to shift our kind of frequency and how we resonate with the earth to actually rediscover its fullness, its beauty, its abundance, that we actually can decide in this very moment to live in the heaven that is earth. So I want to know from you about the earth side of things, the planet side of things, the nature side of things. What is making Earth great again to you?
So that's a great question, and really it's a loaded question, because there are so many things. I always ask people at the end of the show, when they're on my show, I ask them, if you could change one thing on the planet to make the world a better place, what would it be and why? And it's always a different answer, because there's so many different things. So that said, to me, I think there are, and I'll kind of segue a little bit here as well, or take you on an aside, but I feel like at the moment there are so many things that are placed in our society that we have normalized, and there are some things that may or may not actually benefit us. But it's difficult to know who to trust or what to trust nowadays, because there's so much information out there that I think it's really, at the end of the day, about just going back to basics and thinking, okay, what it makes me feel good? What makes other people feel good? And, and not shaming other people as well for walking down the street in the grass without shoes on, for example. Like, that's perfectly normal. If you want to go hug a tree, go hug a tree. Like, it doesn't, like, if there are actual benefits to doing that, even if there are not benefits to doing that, we should stop judging. But I do believe that with all of these huge corporations that are out there, and I'm not anti-corporation or anti-establishment by any means, I'm just saying that a lot of these big companies, like what I said in the beginning, they do treat people like numbers, and a lot of the products are not necessarily good for people. And it's just, how many can we make and how many can we shift out there, versus, nurturing our bodies properly with foods that are actually good for us, and doing, even this. And I want to know your opinion on this as well, Natalie. I mean, because this is something as simple as using an actual toilet. Like, we go and put manure, like cow manure, in fields to fertilize the land, but we flush everything that we have down the toilet. Like, but if you look at the Victorian times, they used to actually flush their feces onto their crops, or like outside in the soil, because then it would go back to nature. So, and that's that lack of judgment thing again, right? Because if it proves that there is a symbiosis between humans and the ground, I mean, it would make sense. That's where we come from. Then all of these things, I feel like we've just normalized this 21st century. Let's all wear rubber insoles and not be connected with the actual land, and let's not communicate with each other. Let's look at a phone screen, and let's go and live in a box, as opposed to living out there like a nomad and traveling the world and seeing all the beautiful fruits and the countries and different cultures, and learning about them, and not trying to make those countries conform to what we want them to be, but allow them to be and just witness the beauty in them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I loved how you talked about symbiosis because that's something I moved to a farm just before COVID. And being a city girl all my life and coming to work and live on a farm really has taught me so much about symbiosis and how much of all the stuff that
Hmm.
occupies us that we consume, whether it's products or food or whether it's media, it's so much of it is just unnecessary in the operation of the world. And I feel like even with consumption and with what we're sold, all these products we're sold, all these systems we're sold for, to be eco-friendly, it's still not having an awareness of working in symbiosis with the earth. It's still just distractions. So, yeah, I love that you said that because I
Hmm.
think that's so important. And we only really learn about the symbiosis when we sit and witness nature and we sit and witness others, instead of running our minds about all the judgments, like you said earlier, and, expectations and
Yeah,
what
and
we should be doing.
it's not something that we're really taught. As we grow old and we go into school, and we're taught all of the things that we're supposed to be taught, but we're not taught how to think. We're taught what to think, and
Mm.
I think that's a big problem, because if we were taught what to think, then maybe we would think, well, actually, what do I think about what I'm doing right now? Because I think people are so, as you said, distracted with all of the fast pace lifestyle that we have, that sometimes just taking a rest and taking a second for yourself and going and sitting under a tree and going and putting your feet in the water and just taking a breath and realizing that the chances of us being on the planet right now at this time in history, or even at all, are so slim. There's so many trillions of sperm and so many moments that your conception could have happened, but you're here right now. But we're so distracted by all the things that we've been taught that we need to obsess about, which is, go get a job, make sure you memorize all this stuff, and if you don't, then, well, guess what? You're probably going to be on the streets. Do you want that? Because you can see the homeless problem is awful, right? You don't want to be on the streets. So then people go, okay, well, I'm just gonna get paid to leave my dreams. I can't remember what movie it's from, but they said it was a recruiter, and he was telling people, I believe he was a recruiter anyway, and he was telling people, how much did this organization pay you to forget your dream? And when I heard that, I was just like, oh man, I cannot afford to live on just a salary. It's not, life is worth much more than that to me. And I feel like people just need to, in my opinion, maybe it's just me that needs to do this. I don't know. I don't want to be preachy teachy by any means, but I just feel like if we just took a second to just really think about what it is that we actually want. Like, where are we heading right now? What are we actually doing to benefit the planet that we're on? Like, what I want to personally leave this planet better than when I found it. And it might not look like environmental. I'm not a specialist in the environment. I'm not an architect. I don't know a lot of science or all these kind of things. But what I'm going to be doing is helping people that do know those things and hopefully making an impact that way. And I think, as you said, just kind of taking a second to realign with nature it really helps to realign not just your body, but your mind, your soul. And I feel like if everybody just takes a second to at least try to do that, it's going to be a lot more relaxed. And then we're going to see things, people are going to start following their passions. And guess what? Somebody's going to be passionate about architecture.
Mm.
Somebody's going to be passionate about agriculture. Somebody's going to be passionate. But at the moment, these people are probably working in the mailroom with a degree in something that they thought, much like me with the singing, I thought that that's what I had to do. I thought that singing was going to be the thing. Like it was, and I love my family. I love my friends. They were very supportive, but I convinced myself that I was doing it because it was what I wanted. But really it was something that I experienced that, and it wasn't even that they were trying to get me to do it, but I got caught up in that world, right? Oh, that's the thing that's going to get me ahead. Okay, perfect, because this rat race sucks. And trying to be a human in the world and do all these things and abide by these rules that have been set for us in our society it kind of sucks. So if I can do this, then that's great. I'll get out there. But when I finally got to, I wouldn't say I got there where I was going, but when I got close, it just didn't feel good. So taking a step back and just realizing and recognizing what I actually wanted to do. And I feel like if we all do this, like I said, it could be very beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested to know, your journey is quite unique and interesting, because for a lot of people, when you talk about coming into alignment with yourself and your authenticity and what you really wanted, and that whole idea of like selling your dream or giving away your dream, it's just funny looking. When I read your bio, I was like, oh, this is a really interesting story, because from all outside kind of eyes on you, it would look like you had your dream and then you gave it away. It's kind of like a backwards story. So I'm really interested to know a bit more about that, especially because that career change for you led you to this amazing kind of initiation into inner work. And of course, I love to talk about people's initiation. So if you could tell us all a little bit more about your journey and the inner work that you had to do to get to this point where you're at now, that would be really great.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the question. And it's, I mean, with any, I would say, awakening or, whatever people want to call it, there's no right or wrong answer. With any, I'm going to choose to say awakening. So with any process like that, it can also be a pretty scary time for people, because you almost have to throw away everything that you know, and then you have to trust yourself. But I'll take it back and I'll kind of let you know how I got there. So it all started, and this is quite funny. When I was 9, we were doing something called circle time. I don't know if you guys have that in Australia, but circle time, you pass the beanbag around the room, and then people, you're only allowed to get that. You're only allowed to talk when you're holding the beanbag. So we had to go around and say what we did after school. And the beanbag got to me, and I thought, oh my God, I don't do anything. So I had to make something up. So I said I played rugby, and Natalie, I was literally the skinniest little kid you ever seen. Like there was no chance in hell I actually played rugby, and everybody knew it. And I felt super embarrassed, and I went home, and my parents, they've always, I love them to pieces, and they came back and they've given me some good morals as a kid. And I started crying. I was like, I told a lie at school. I can't believe it. And they're like, oh no, what did you do? They were thinking, what the heck did he do? And I said, no, I told everyone that I did rugby. And they said, oh, well, okay, well, that's okay. I can see why you might be, upset that you told that. Well, that's kind of like a white lie. You just didn't want to look silly in front of your friends. So why don't you tell us what it is that you want to do? So literally the next day, and this is where divine timing and all these things, because you can trace it back, right? You can keep going back in the story. And then, if this didn't happen, then that would never happen. But literally the next day, a flyer came through the door, and it was for a local amateur dramatics little drama class. So I said, can I do this? And they were like, yeah, sure. So off I went, and I went there for every weekend for a couple hours. And I was there when I was 14. I ended up getting Student of the Year there, and that's, it all kind of lent itself to this is the thing, right? I was at a very young, impressionable age, and I thought this is my life. And don't get me wrong, I do love performing still. I have a very delicate relationship with my singing, and I'll touch on that a little bit later on in the story. But because I feel like all I've done is just trash the industry. It's really not like that. I still love writing music. I still love DJing and singing. Like it's all my passion still, but it's not a job for me right now. But anyway, so then I went to the school, and I'll kind of go forward a little bit. I had some singing lessons, and then I did my first, it's called a wedding fair. So basically they just put the singer in a room, and there's florists there, and there's, people that do decorations, and they just had me sing there to try and get some bookings. And I got a bunch of bookings, and then I was just singing professionally from the age of 16 right up until 2016. So I would have been if I was 16, that would have been around 2006. Oh my God, I'm exposing my math right now. I'm 31 now, so I was 16. We'll do it that way. And I came here 7 years ago. So basically, when I started doing the music and everything, it was great. Like I was earning good money, and I was doing festivals, I was doing casinos, and I was flying around the country sometimes to do a couple gigs. And then when I was 19, I got an audition for something called Your Country Needs You, which is basically for the Eurovision Song Contest. It's like the pre-selection show. So my parents used to have parties when I was a kid, Eurovision parties, and it used to be a huge thing for everybody in England and Europe, because obviously it's the Eurovision. So and I went along to this audition, and I actually got through, and it was run by Pete Waterman. He made the song. He's responsible for like Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan and a couple other people. So he was kind of the brains behind the song that they picked. And I say that they picked because, unfortunately, it wasn't my cup of tea, if I'm honest with you, but you had to sing the song. So what happened was I won the UK selection process by public vote. So people phoned in and texted, and thankfully I won that. And then I actually represented the UK in the Eurovision Song Contest in 2010. And I was 19 years old. And that was showcased in front of 150 million people on live television, and it was the biggest thing I'd ever done in my life. All these other things didn't come close. It was about 19,000 people in the audience, or 30, like in between that range. And honestly, it was the best thing I could have ever possibly done. I don't have any regrets at all. What I will say is now in my adult life, the things that have probably propelled me into my awakening have been reflection on what happened during that time. So my name is Josh James Dubovie. That's my full name. And I went on Eurovision. It was, welcome Josh Dubovie. So I sang this song that was handed to me, but it was not, it was too high. They actually raised the key on me in the studio. And I said, why'd you do that? And they said, well, we want the audience to think, will he hit that last note? Will he not hit the last note? And I'm like, well, guess what? It's not in my range. I'm not going to hit it. Like it's too high. Anyway, they kept it. So out I went like a lamb to the slaughter. And guess what place we got in the competition?
What?
25th or last.
Oh.
So we came last in front of all of those people singing a cheesy 80s song that was I would find out later on that the song wasn't even written for the Eurovision. It was meant to be in a kids puppet show, and it was actually a female solo. So how it ended up in the Eurovision, I have no idea. But there I was, 19-year-old on the BBC singing this song that was given to me. Anyway, so I was given a manager during that period of time, and he said that, you know what, let's lay low for a while. Let's take a year off, and then we'll come back with a rebrand. Like we'll do a big kind of, we'll kind of let the dust settle, and then we'll come back out and whatever. But what they didn't tell me in my contract was I was on for one single, which was That Sounds Good to Me, the song that I sang in the Eurovision, and then a second single. But the release date was optional. So they had me bound in a contract, and there was no release date for the second single. So they just literally did nothing with me for a whole year. Now, during that time, I started to go crazy because obviously I felt a little bit like damaged goods, right? On a global, well, no, I wouldn't say global, on a European scale. All these people would see me come last in this competition, right? It was like a public humiliation, in my opinion. It depends who you ask. Some people say, oh, it's amazing. At least you did it. And, you gave it your all. Yes, I understand that. But it was a very personal, unique experience for me as, Josh, the singer. And really, when it all started to change was when I had a rebrand. So, like I said, my name is Josh James Dubovie. So what we did, Dubovie is such an uncommon name that when you typed it in on Google, the Eurovision is the only thing that came up. And I said, I feel like I want to go out there as like Josh James or something. So as when people search that, they'll actually see the recent stuff that I'm doing and not just the Eurovision. So it was obviously a big trauma/trigger for me because I was kind of processing that. And I got rebranded into Josh James, but I had management. And then they started to dress me as this, I don't know, like an R&B, like biting the lip kind of fucking, oops, sorry, like biting the lip, wearing MTV t-shirt and doing like having fresh cut hair and all this kind of stuff and just smoldery and smoky. And I again, because I'd been used to growing up thinking that I had to be a people pleaser and do what people were telling me, and this is what's going to get me ahead. I started to become that character, and I began to have somewhat of an identity crisis because even my parents at one point, I was doing a show, and they came to visit me, and my mum, I remember it vividly. She turned to me and said, "I don't recognize you right now," and it cut through the noise, because I was putting on a show. I was putting on this Josh James character who I thought was me. I was a young dude. I was probably 20, 21 at that point. But then when my own mother said that to me, it just cut straight to my soul. And I thought, who am I then? What is going on? Because I thought that this was who I was supposed to be. So then I went on this huge downward spiral, and I started to think, if I'm not Josh from Eurovision, not Josh the singer, then who am I? And I decided that I had to actually leave the country. So I went and auditioned for a cruise ship. And actually, this is kind of funny. The first cruise ship audition I went for, I got rejected. And I went for a walk in the rain, Natalie, because I was so annoyed. So yeah. It was so traumatic. And I really thought that was my ticket. I was like, this is it. I'm gonna get out there. It's gonna be amazing. Didn't get it. Anyway, a year later, I went for the same audition and I got the ship. So now we're talking probably around 2013, 2014 time. And I've been kind of toying with myself at that point, but I hadn't really experienced the personal development aspect. So when I got on the cruise ship, me and my girlfriend and I, we broke up. We were together for 4 years. And I was still kind of in the remnants of my personality crisis. I was kind of, but then when I got on the ship, I was just free and I was alone. And I thought, wow, I can literally be whoever I want to be right now. And what does that look like? And I started to work out. I started to really look at my relationships and all these kind of things. And then actually, I just started to do things for myself, because it was the first time that I wasn't thinking about other people. I was actually purely thinking about myself. Even when I was leaving for the cruise, my parents said to me, I know they keep coming up a lot. They're obviously a big part of the story too, but they said to me, are you sure you want to do this? Because you got so much momentum and we don't want you to lose it. You'll be able to go back out there. And I said, no, I'm doing it, So that was the first time that I really decided that I had to live for me. Anyway, I'll fast forward a little bit because I don't want to drag it on for too long. But basically, I ended up one particular day. We docked in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, Canada, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be with anybody today. I don't want to see the guests on the ship. I don't want to see the staff, all my crewmates, anything. I was on there singing. That was my role. And I decided that when we got to Charlottetown, I would walk for just 20 minutes purposely just to get lost. And then later on, I'd find my way back to the ship somehow. I sat down in a restaurant. I started having some lunch and I was being served by my wife-to-be, and that was in 2014. We've now been together since then. She was serving me in the restaurant, and then we did 2 years of long distance. I moved to Canada, and I changed my life. I work in a retirement home, and I run a podcast, and I do all these things because these are what light me up. I have a stepson. I have a beautiful fiance. I've got some incredible friends. I've lost a lot of friends too, but you know what? That is the scary thing that people need to realize is that if you start doing things that you want to do, somebody or someone somewhere is not going to enjoy that because at one point that was not who you were to them. But if you do that, you're then going to upset a few people. But guess what? when you're truly authentically living yourself. And I'm not there yet. It's a forever process. I mean, I'll be on my deathbed learning things about my life, hopefully. That when you truly decide to put yourself first and your needs above other people's, and I'll explain what I mean by that, everything becomes so much easier. And what I mean is, it's okay to be selfish, because in my opinion, being selfish is actually one of the most selfless things that you can do. Because if you are feeling that you're energized and you're passionate and you're happy and you're doing all these things that are lighting you up and feeling aligned, you're going to be able to show up for the people in your life so much better. And that is the least selfish thing that you can do. So it's really interesting. I've gone from being having a people pleasing nature to having a self pleasing nature, but people pleasing as a byproduct of that, but actually helping them more because I seem to be more enjoyable to be around. I seem to have more drive behind me. You know, I have a good influence with my young nephew, for example, and like I have a lot of young friends who I can tell that they're really happy that they know me because I'm different, right? I'm weird. And I don't care. Like, I'm a misfit. I started the whole thing by saying that, and I'm really trying to just show people that it's okay to do what you want to do, because guess what? Like I said earlier, somebody's going to be interested in architecture. Somebody's going to be interested in this. Someone's going to be interested in that. So just follow your passion and follow what lights you up.
Amazing advice, especially looking at your trajectory. So many people would believe their dream is to be an entertainer, a performer, famous, and how much of that is kind of programmed into us at such a young age that that's a much more important or enjoyable or glamorous role or influence to have, when now you've found yourself, you know, creating a platform, but also supporting elderly people in your day-to-day like job. Just incredible. Like your trajectory where it's taken you. I find that the path is really unique and it's really refreshing, because we also hear so often, like in this awakening space, that you're not really being authentic if you have a normie day job. You know what I mean? You're supposed to go off and chase these dreams. But what if that actually makes you happy? What if that sustains you and makes you feel like valuable, like your contribution is valuable? So yeah, I find your story really inspiring, actually.
Oh, thanks, Natalie. And I just want to touch on the retirement gig as well. You know, when they said to me, why do you want to do this? Like, when I moved to Canada, I had nothing. I worked at Best Buy for a minute there. I was earning minimum wage. And somebody said to me, hey, you know, I feel like you would be really good for retirement, because they left to do that. And when I realized that was something that I actually could do, I was thinking, well, this is perfect, because I actually used to sing in retirement homes when I was 16. So it's gone full circle. I was singing in hospices, and I was doing charity events and singing at seniors' homes when I was 16. And I actually, when I was like older, I was like, well, I want to appeal to the younger crowd. I want to, you know, and then as I got older, the cruise ship was actually over 60s. And again, all of these signs from the universe saying, hey, guess what? Like, this all lends itself perfectly to where you're going. So the cruise ship was over 60. So when they asked me, why do you want to do retirement living? And I said, well, honestly, I didn't know that this was a thing that I could do. But now I know that this is the thing I can do. It's a great fit, because I've already got experience. I told them I used to sing in retirement homes. I've like worked on over 60s cruise ship. I used to sing at hospices. I'm used to doing this. And it was something that kind of felt natural. And I make no, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I'm not shy of saying that I have a regular job, because I also have a part-time job. I also run a podcast, and I'm also a father. I'm also a husband to be. You know, I do all of these things, and I learned that lesson because I spent so much of my life being Josh the singer. But then I was like, I'm not Josh the singer. I'm Josh who can do this. I'm Josh who can do that. And so I feel like if you have a stable income, it will help to fund your dreams. Obviously, the MEGApodcast, that is my passion, and that's where I'm heading. And I don't believe that I'll be at the retirement home forever, because that's not what I'm truly, truly passionate about. But for now, it's so fulfilling. Like it's like real estate for seniors. I get to show them around the place, and I get to find out about their life. They're walking history books, and I actually, the funniest thing is that I decided to start doing concerts for the residents. So I sing like Frank Sinatra and Rat Pack and all the stuff that they would love, which I used to sing. And I do it once every 3 months for them, and they absolutely love it. And I love it too, because it's on my terms. I'm doing it because I want to do that for them. And I want to feel like when I sing, it's because I want to sing, not because it's a job, or not because someone else is telling me, hey, you should probably do this, or not because I'm believing that, oh, I should be probably doing this to make everyone happy. But now I'm coming from a place where I'm actually able to provide them with something that I know is truly valuable, especially in this last couple years. It's been so hard for everybody. They're being locked down in their rooms and stuff. Having a concert at Christmas, like, come on, it's great. They just get to sit there and they know all the music, and it feels so good to be able to provide that for them as well.
Oh, you're such a gift. That's so awesome. I really, really enjoy hearing you talk about how much you enjoy entertaining them. That's wonderful.
I do.
Cool. So another part of your story when you were telling it that made me light up hearing it was that moment where you decided with full intention to lose yourself when you docked. And in doing so, that was like the first step in finding yourself almost. That's what it sounded like. So I noticed on your website and on a lot of the kind of Mega podcast messaging, you talk about intention, community, and collaboration. So I just wanted to spend some time before we finish up talking about those words and what they mean to you, and starting with intention, because it sounded like intention really started you on this path, that intention to be present and walk and just get yourself lost. Yeah. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, thank you. So effectively, we chose those 3 words, and I will start with intention for sure. But we chose those words because it really is everything that I've learned, and that, my buddy Eric, who is the co-host on the show as well, he feels, and he has felt for a long time, that those are some of the most valuable things that we can do to actually, it's kind of like a logo almost. It speaks exactly what we're trying to do. It's like we want to bring everybody together with our intentions and create community. So intention, like you said, when I got off the ship, and now I have a very different idea of what intention means. But my intention at that time was to be selfish and to say, okay, what do I want to do? So I actually, I did go and do that. But I would say nowadays, the reason why I chose intention is because intention is such a powerful tool that we have in our arsenal, and I don't feel like we use it as often. And hopefully some of your listeners, they already do have this. But for a lot of people, from my perception and my awareness, it seems to me as though people just kind of go about their everyday. So setting your intention and giving your body that download and because the way I see it is that the body is the vehicle and the mind is kind of giving the orders, and the soul is kind of driving, like the heart is kind of driving it. So if you have the intention, then it helps to program your internal GPS to where it is you actually want to go. But then the trick that I've learned with that is to release expectation of how it happens, because otherwise you can end up getting disappointed if it doesn't happen. I would love to expand on a story there, but I know we're finishing up, so I'll probably leave that one for now. But it's so intention for me is, what is it that you actually want to do, and then figuring out what way you want to go about it, and then releasing expectation and just trusting yourself that you're going to be able to achieve that. And guess what? Sometimes it's not going to work out, and sometimes it's not going to happen the way that you thought. There have been times when I've set my intention and I completely forgot about it, and then something happens. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, yes. Okay. It had to happen like this. Of course, so it's a really beautiful word. So that's one of the things that we use is intention. Collaboration. Well, I think we can all agree, if we were not supposed to be in communities and working with each other, we'd just be single-celled organisms. There would be no point to collaborating and working with each other. You know, a huge building structure is not just one person over many, many years doing every single job, although that would be very impressive. But it takes collaboration to get things done. You know, I even with Mega, I've done a few episodes on my own and I love doing it. But when I have Eric as my co-host, or Charlie, he's come on a couple times as well, there's something about collaborating with people that just, it's an open space. One of my favorite things to say is that, and this is especially true with truth, because lots of people feel that their opinion is above other people's, or that theirs is, you know, well, no, my opinion is the truth and yours therefore must be untrue. But what I like to say is, and this is in a collaborative effort, why don't we all put everything that we believe on the table, and then we will all take equal portions of the truth, because that's what is going to help us to collaborate and get things actually done. You know, nobody's idea is stupid, because if it's stupid and it works, it ain't stupid. You know, so it's just people's perception again. So maybe this is actually a good live exercise to do. If somebody set the intention that their business was going to work a certain way, and then they obsessed about that intention, and somebody who they were trying to collaborate with had an idea, they're probably going to say, no, I don't want to do that. And then the collaboration goes out the window, because now they're not going to want to collaborate with that person with their idea, when really, if they had have gone down that path, that might have been the thing that did the thing that made them get where they wanted to go. So, you know, having that collaborative attitude, I think, is so important in structuring and cultivating the new earth. And that kind of goes in with community. You know, it's not just about working with people one and done. It's maintaining relationships with the people that actually want to stay connected, because, you know, not everybody wants to stay connected, and that's cool. Like, you can do whatever you want, but I think it's important to find the community and the people that do want to work with you, and the people that want to make the earth a better place, or even the people that want to create something different and collaborate with them, you know. But having community is such an important thing, and that's what we do with our network. So everybody who comes into the podcast, we actually have them on our website, and it's a live page, so they can have people, we have them send us anything that they're working on, and we touch base with them from time to time. We're in a couple groups, and I was going to be planning, it might be a little bit too late now, but I would say definitely for next year, when we have a lot more people in the network, we're going to be doing a community. I'd love to get everyone in person, but if we're going to be doing it online, I'll do like an end of year party for all the guests, where they can actually meet each other and see the healers and the leaders and people that are trying to make the world a better place together. So those are kind of the three main factors of our organization, and the intention with it is to use those three things to hopefully attract the right audience. And it's such a funny thing, because if you don't agree with making the earth a great place, like, then what do you believe?
Yeah, so true. So true. And I love all three of those words hold so much meaning for me. And I think especially the community and collaboration, a community can't exist without collaboration. Collaboration takes people of all walks, of all skill sets, of all different beliefs. So having, you know, understanding that everyone has a different truth, and you don't have to agree with their truth. You don't have to sometimes even respect the truth, but you can accept that everyone does hold a different truth that's based on their experience and their values and their belief system. And I don't think a community can function if we're all the same. The community requires, as we said at the beginning, that diversity of those different personalities, those different values, those different skill sets in order to grow and thrive. So I think that's a really wonderful lesson coming out of our chat today, is just to think about how we might be wanting to kind of homogenize our communities rather than nurture the diversity within them, and think about how we can add our own sprinkle of diversity to the communities we're a part of in order to help the community thrive.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm nodding away. I look like one of those nodding dogs on the front of the
Cool. Well, I think we're hitting our deadline here. So just to wrap up, in short, if you could, I'm probably riffing on your question that you like to end with, but just a sentence on how you see when we make the earth great again, we realize, earth in its renewed beauty. What's that vision look like for you?
So that's a really nice framed question as well. So for me, what that looks like is having a little bit of patience with your brothers and sisters, because really the main thing is that none of us really truly know the truth. And I always say that if somebody tells me, well, God is the only way, or the universe is the only way, or Yahweh, or all of there's so many different ideas, and unless somebody can prove without a shadow of a doubt that what they say is true, which nobody can at this point, then everything is on the table. So I think just having patience with each other and having an open mind and an open heart, we may have that collaborative attitude, and we may learn, like I said earlier, to put all of our stuff on the table and take equal portions of the truth, because I do think that there are things in each field that are all true. There are many things that do come, but everything's so polarized. So I would say the new earth would look a lot more relaxed. People would not be as offended if somebody shares a different opinion, and people will not be so quick to judge and to try and one up each other, or compete. So that's kind of what it looks like for me.
Beautiful. A wonderful collaborative landscape that's driven by love, it sounds like.
Love's the only way. That's it.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Josh. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. If people want to connect with you or check out your podcast, how do they find you?
Yeah, thanks, Natalie. And I have to say, I absolutely love what you're doing with the Initiates podcast as well. And I'm definitely going to be tuning in. I was listening to the one about the butterfly today, about your Akashic Records reading. Very, very cool episode. If people are listening to this and they haven't heard that, go check it out. It's awesome. And if you want to listen to our podcast, so there's a couple ways. Basically, you can go to www.makeearthgreatagain.ca. Because we're in Canada, or you can go onto Rumble, because we're realizing that Rumble is it's starting to be a bigger platform, and we're trying to make our presence known ahead of time. So we're using Rumble. You can type in MEGApodcast, so MEGA podcast, all one word, and then we'll show up on there. And also we're on Spotify as well, MEGApodcast. And also, if people want to send us an email, if they want to be a guest, or if they just want some more information or to, support in any way, then they can email info@makeearthgreatagain.ca.
Fantastic. I'll definitely put all your links in the show notes for this episode as well, so people can find you as easily as possible. Thank you again for the chat, Josh. It's been a pleasure, and I hope we can do that again soon.
I would love to have you on our show as well, actually, Natalie. I think we have a very great energy together, and if you're willing to collaborate, then I'd love to I don't want to put you on the spot on your own show, but that would be awesome. But yeah, I hope that we get to do this, and thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it. When you sent me the message, when you saw my post, I could tell instantly that it was going to be a great fit for us to chat. So thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the rest of your day and weekend.
You too, Josh. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed the conversation about alignment with Josh Dubovie. Like I said in the intro, I was just so intrigued by his story. I actually had no idea about his past as an entertainer, and his kind of notoriety that he achieved until the day before our interview. Actually, I did some extra research in my preparation, and I was like, whoa, this guy's got such a wild story and unique story. And I wasn't even sure if he was going to share that, because it's quite a personal journey he shared with us today. So like I said, I'm so honored and grateful that Josh felt comfortable enough to share his story with this audience. So thanks for your time. Thanks for journeying with us. And until next week, I wish you peace, I wish you love, and I hold you in highest gratitude.